The 2026 World Cup broke more than 40 records. 40. And you watched the whole thing and you saw maybe 3 of them because the other 37 happened in the games you skipped, in the minutes you fast-forwarded, in the numbers nobody put on screen. I found the 10 that will genuinely mess with your head. Number 7 is a record so brutal, the man who set it will never live it down. Number 4 should be impossible. And number 1 is the single most absurd thing to happen at a World Cup in 96 years, and I promise you did not notice it. 10-1. Let's go. Number 10. The tournament that broke the sport's own ceiling. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 host countries. It had never been done, and everyone said it would water the whole thing down. More teams, weaker teams, more boring football. That was the take. Everyone had it. They were completely wrong. 308 goals, an average of 2.96 per game. That is the best scoring rate at a World Cup since 1970. Since Pelé. The expansion everybody said would ruin the tournament produced the highest scoring World Cup ever played, in front of the biggest crowds ever recorded, with 4.64 million people in the stadiums for the group stage alone. And the old record didn't just fall, it got embarrassed. Number 9. The record that died with a month to spare. The entire 2022 World Cup in Qatar produced 172 goals. That was the all-time record. 64 matches, 172 goals, untouchable. In 2026, goal number 173 arrived in match 59. 59 of 104. The record for an entire World Cup was broken before this one was halfway done, and it was broken by a name almost nobody outside America knows. Austin Trusty, a United States defender, against Turkey. A center-back you have never thought about erased the biggest attacking record in the sport. Nobody stopped the game. Nobody knew. Number 8. 999 matches, then this. Japan 4, Tunisia 0. On the surface, a routine group stage win you already forgot. Except that match was the 1,000th game in the history of the Men's World Cup. 1,000 matches going back to 1930 to Uruguay, to a tournament with 13 teams and no television, and the milestone landed on Japan, who then turned it into the biggest victory any Asian nation has ever managed at a World Cup. 1,000 games of history, and the perfect team walked into it by accident. Number 7. The most humiliating record ever set. This one hurts, because of who it belongs to. Lionel Messi became the first player in the history of the World Cup to miss 2 penalties from open play in a single edition. Not shootouts. Open play. 2 of them, in one tournament. In 96 years and 1,000 matches, nobody had ever done that. Not the worst finishers, not the most nervous debutants. The greatest player of all time holds it alone. And the cruelty is that in the same tournament, he was breaking beautiful records too, playing more World Cup matches than any human being in history. The same month, the same man, immortality and humiliation, sharing a page. Number 6, 78.8% and nothing to show for it. England versus Ghana. England had the ball for 78.8% of that match, nearly 4/5 of the game. They did not score. That is the highest possession figure ever recorded by any team in any World Cup match that ended without a goal. Think about what that stat is actually describing. 90 minutes of complete control and 0 end product. Pass, 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 sideways, backwards, nothing. It is the most English statistic ever produced, and it is now permanent, in the record books, forever. If you ever needed proof that possession is not the same thing as power, it's that number. Number 5. Africa's ceiling smashed twice in 90 minutes. Senegal 5, Iraq 0. No African nation had ever scored 5 goals in a single World Cup match. Not Cameroon in 90, not Nigeria in 94, not Ghana in 2010. Senegal did it, and then kept going, finishing the group stage with 8 goals. A new African record for the group phase. And here is what makes it land. Every 4 years, the same conversation happens about African teams. Talented, chaotic, can't finish. Senegal answered it with the scoreline, not the argument. Number 4. a 41-year-old did something nobody in history has done. Cristiano Ronaldo scored at this World Cup. That alone is remarkable, but it made him the first player ever to score in 6 different editions of the tournament. 6. 1998 was before he was a professional. He has now scored in World Cups spanning 2 decades of football, 3 generations of defenders, and an entire evolution of the sport. He also finished as the second oldest goal scorer in World Cup history, behind only Roger Milla. And it took his career World Cup total to 11, making him Portugal's all-time leading scorer at the tournament. Say what you like about him. Nobody has ever done that. Nobody may ever do it again. Number 3, 11 saves, and it wasn't enough. The final, Spain versus Argentina. Emiliano Martinez made 11 saves. 11. That is a record for a World Cup final. No goalkeeper in the history of the biggest match on earth has ever had to do more. He was, statistically, the busiest and most successful goalkeeper any final has ever seen. Argentina lost 1-0, and with it went a taboo that has now stood for 64 years. No champion has successfully defended a World Cup since Brazil in 1962. Argentina had Messi, they had the holder's badge, they had a goalkeeper producing the greatest defensive performance in final history, and the curse did not blink. Number 2, the best player at the World Cup doesn't score goals. The highest scoring World Cup in history, 308 goals. And the Golden Ball, the award for the best player at the tournament, went to a holding midfielder, Rodri, a number 6. A man whose job is to stand still in the correct place. He completed more passes than anyone in the tournament and covered more ground than anyone in the tournament, and neither of those things makes a highlight reel. The Golden Glove went to Spain's goalkeeper. The best young player went to a 19-year-old centre-back, Pau Cubarsí. 3 of the 4 biggest individual honors at the most attacking World Cup ever played went to men whose entire job is stopping football from happening. That is not a coincidence, and it's the clue to number 1. Number 1, 1 goal, 8 games, and you missed all of it. Spain won the World Cup conceding 1 goal, not 1 per match, 1 total in 8 games. No champion in the 96-year history of this tournament has ever conceded fewer. They became the first team to play 6 World Cup matches without conceding at all. In the highest scoring World Cup ever staged, one team basically opted out of being scored against. And it gets stranger. Their goalkeeper, Unai Simon, went 650 consecutive minutes without conceding, the longest run in the history of the World Cup. He broke Walter Zenga's record, which had stood since 1990, 36 years. Buffon never touched it. Neuer never touched it. Casillas never touched it, and Simon passed his mark too on the way. Now the part that should genuinely stop you. That run did not start in 2026. It started on the 1st of December, 2022, when Ao Tanaka scored for Japan in Qatar. 3.5 years? It survived a defeat, it survived a penalty shootout elimination against Morocco, and it was quietly built inside forgettable matches, including a 0-0 against Cape Verde that half the world had already stopped watching. The greatest goalkeeping run in World Cup history was assembled out of a loss, an elimination, and a goalless draw against a debutant island nation. And the man who did it? The season before, he conceded more than 50 goals for Athletic Bilbao in their worst league finish in years. On paper, he wasn't even the best Spanish goalkeeper playing in Europe. Fans wanted him dropped. His own manager had to publicly defend picking him. The only goal Spain conceded all tournament came in the 41st minute of the quarter-final against Belgium. Castagne crossed from the right. De Ketelaere rose above everyone and headed it in. 1 cross, 1 header. That was the entire hole in the wall. But the wall was never really the goalkeeper, and it was never the center-backs either. Spain didn't stop attacks. They stopped attacks from ever starting by keeping the ball and pressing the moment they lost it. That's why the number 6 won the Golden Ball. So here's what actually happened at the 2026 World Cup underneath everything you were shown. The most goals ever, the most matches ever, the biggest crowds ever, 48 teams, 3 countries, 104 games of pure chaos. Records falling every single day, most of them without a camera pointed at them. And it was won by a team ranked 7th for defending, driven by a midfielder who doesn't score, protected by a goalkeeper nobody wanted, on a streak that started with a defeat nobody remembers. You watched the attack. Everybody watched the attack. The World Cup was won by the empty net. Which one of these did you actually know? Tell me in the comments because I genuinely don't believe anyone got more than 4.